Situational factors promoting aggressive behavior. In the previous chapter, we looked at individual characteristics to answer the question of why some people are more aggressive than others in one and the same situation. In this chapter, the reverse question will be asked, namely why the same person may be more likely to act aggressively in some situations and not in others. The importance of frustration and provocation in eliciting aggressive behavior has already been discussed in Chapter 2. In the present chapter, we discuss further variables linked to situational variations in aggressive behavior. First, we examine the effect of alcohol intoxication on aggressive behavior, followed by a review of the evidence on social exclusion as a trigger for aggressive behavior. Both are proximal factors that directly impinge on the individual's thoughts and feelings. In the third section, we examine the impact of aggressive cues in the social environment. It was already mentioned in Chapter 2 that weapons are powerful aggressive cues that may precipitate aggressive behavior by increasing the salience of aggressive thoughts. Accordingly, the fourth section looks at the availability of firearms as a risk factor for aggressive behavior. The final section reviews evidence on the impact of heat and other more distal stressors in the physical environment on aggressive behavior. In each of these areas, it will become clear that situational characteristics, even if influential in themselves, interact with personal characteristics that an individual brings to the situation, and it is the interaction between the situation and the person that holds the clue to understanding aggressive behavior. The complementary question about situational characteristics that are likely to reduce or inhibit aggression will be discussed in the context of prevention and intervention in Chapter 12. Alcohol. Alcohol induces a situational state that may explain why individuals show aggression in a particular time and place and not in others. It is part of everyday wisdom that people tend to become more aggressive under the influence of alcohol, and this section examines the empirical evidence to support this proposition. Beyond showing a link between alcohol intoxication and aggression, explanations of the mechanisms by which alcohol contributes to aggressive behavior will be presented. To start with a very general statement, it seems safe to conclude from the research available to date that alcohol is involved in many contexts in which aggression and violence occur. Alcohol plays an important role in the perpetration of violent crime, such as homicide, and aggression in the family, including the physical and sexual abuse of children, sexual aggression, and violence against intimate partners. It features prominently in many forms of group violence, such as sports violence, rioting, and gang violence. Alcohol is also implicated in a range of aggressive behavior on college campuses. However, the finding that aggressive behavior is often shown under the influence of alcohol does not necessarily suggest that alcohol is the cause of an individual's aggressive actions. It may be the case that the tendency to get drunk and to show aggressive behavior are both caused by a third variable, such as lack of impulse control, or that alcohol affects the likelihood of aggressive behavior in an indirect way, e.g. by lowering a person's tolerance of frustration. In addition, it is possible that the aggression-promoting effects of alcohol consumption occur only in the presence of particular features of the situation, such as provocation or prior frustration. Regarding the evidence for a link between alcohol and aggressive behavior, 3 recent meta-analyses provide a comprehensive picture and a conclusive answer. Focusing on men, Crane et al. 2016 found that aggression towards a female target in experimental laboratory studies was substantially higher among men who had received alcohol than among men in a no-alcohol control condition across a set of 22 studies. The effect size was higher, D equals 0.45, when the target was an intimate partner than for female targets in general, D equals 0.32. In a complementary meta-analysis focusing on female aggression towards male targets, Crane et al. 2017 found a significant but smaller effect, D equals 0.17, in the same direction across 12 studies. No separate effects for intimate partners were reported. In a meta-analysis, i.e. a meta-analysis integrating findings from several meta-analytic reviews rather than original studies, Duke et al. 2018 compiled the evidence from 18 meta-analytic studies on the alcohol-aggression link. They found an overall effect size of D equals 0.39 and confirmed that the association was larger in male than in female samples. Overall, this evidence demonstrates a consistent and robust impact of alcohol on aggressive behavior. The magnitude of the difference scores between intoxicated participants and controls may be interpreted as a medium-size effect, given the widespread use of alcohol and the fact that no single factor can fully explain complex behaviors such as aggression. The size of the effect is meaningful both from a theoretical and an applied perspective. Alcohol can affect aggressive behavior through two different but complementary routes. The first is through its pharmacological effects, which alter the physiological functioning of the body. The second is through its psychological effects, based on the knowledge of having drunk alcohol. People hold intuitive theories about the link between alcohol and aggression, e.g., that alcohol may serve as an excuse for antisocial behavior, commonly known as blaming the bottle, and they have expectancies about how their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors change when they drink alcohol. To separate the pharmacological and psychological effects of alcohol on aggression, the balanced placebo design is the method of choice. Bushman and Cooper, 1990. This experimental design includes 4 groups, as shown in Figure 5.1. Figure 5.1, the balanced placebo design for studying the alcohol-aggression link. It's a 2x2 table. The columns are alcohol expected, yes or no, and the rows are alcohol received, yes or no. So when you have alcohol expected and alcohol received, that's the alcohol condition. When there's no alcohol expected and no alcohol received, that's the control condition. And when alcohol is expected but no alcohol is received, that's the placebo group. And when alcohol is not expected but alcohol is received, that's the anti-placebo group. Participants in the alcohol group are correctly informed that they are going to receive an alcoholic drink. They will experience both physiological changes and psychological effects as a result of the alcohol intake. Participants in the control group are correctly informed that they will receive a non-alcoholic drink and therefore experience neither pharmacological nor psychological effects. Participants in the placebo group are told they will receive an alcoholic drink, but in fact they are given a non-alcoholic drink. Thus, they may have alcohol-related expectancies, but will not experience any pharmacological changes. In the final group, called the anti-placebo group, participants are led to believe that they consumed a non-alcoholic drink when in fact they received an alcoholic drink. They experience pharmacological changes, but no psychological effects because they are unaware of having received alcohol. The pharmacological effect of alcohol is most clearly discernible by comparing the control group with the anti-placebo group. Neither group thinks they have received alcohol, thereby eliminating alcohol-related expectancies, but the anti-placebo group does in fact receive an alcoholic drink. If the participants in the anti-placebo group behave more aggressively than those in the control group, the difference can be explained as a result of the physiological changes caused by alcohol. The psychological effects of alcohol can be assessed most conclusively by comparing the placebo group with the control group. Neither group receives alcohol, so there are no pharmacological effects. Therefore, any differences between them can be attributed to the operation of alcohol-related expectancies. By comparing the alcohol group and the control group, the combined impact of the pharmacological and psychological effects of alcohol on aggression can be established. In a meta-analysis of 30 studies addressing the impact of alcohol on aggression in men, Bushman and Cooper, 1990, found that neither the pharmacological effect on its own, the difference in aggressive behavior between the anti-placebo group and the control group, D equals 0.06, nor the psychological effect alone, the difference between the placebo group and the control group, D equals 0.10, were significant. However, a significant difference of D equals 0.61 was found between the alcohol group and the placebo group, which both thought that they had consumed alcohol, although only the alcohol group had actually done so. This finding suggests that the pharmacological changes induced by alcohol promote aggressive behavior only in combination with the psychological effect, i.e., the belief that alcohol was consumed. A second, but smaller significant difference was found between the alcohol group and the control group, which differed in terms of both pharmacological and psychological effects. In this comparison, the pharmacological and expectancy effects of alcohol cannot be separated because the alcohol group both expects and receives alcohol, whereas the control group both expects and receives a non-alcoholic drink. However, this comparison may be the most relevant one in terms of real-life significance. As Bushman and Cooper 1990 pointed out, people usually know whether or not they have consumed alcohol, which activates beliefs about how they are likely to be affected by its pharmacological effects. Unfortunately, the authors did not compare the placebo group, expectancy but no alcohol, against the anti-placebo group, alcohol but no expectancy, to answer the question of which of the two processes may be stronger. The role of alcohol-related expectancies as triggers of aggression was highlighted by Subra et al. 2010. Using a priming paradigm, they demonstrated that participants showed shorter reaction times in recognizing aggression-related words after they were subliminally presented with images of alcoholic beverage bottles than following a priming with non-alcoholic beverage bottles. The priming effect of alcoholic beverage bottles was as strong as the effect elicited by images of weapons as aggression-related primes. In a second study, Subra et al. Showed that participants exposed to images of alcohol bottles acted more aggressively in terms of negative evaluations of a Confederate who had previously angered them than those presented with non-alcoholic beverage bottles. Again, the effect of alcohol-related primes on aggression was as strong as the effect of aggression-related primes. These findings are important because they suggest that the mere presence of alcohol-related cues may trigger cognitive associations with aggression and elicit aggressive behavior, even when there is no anticipated or even actual consumption of alcohol. In a naturalistic laboratory experiment, Leonard and Roberts, 1998, also showed that actually consuming alcohol is not a necessary condition for eliciting aggression. They addressed the pharmacological and expectancy effects of alcohol in married couples with or without a history of the husband's physical aggression towards the wife. Husbands in one group received an alcoholic drink and were correctly informed about it, the alcohol group, while husbands in a second group were led to believe they would receive an alcoholic drink, but in fact received a non-alcoholic drink, the placebo group, and husbands in the third group both expected and received a non-alcoholic drink, the control group. All couples then engaged in a discussion about the most controversial issue in their relationship, which they had previously identified. Observations of the couple's verbal exchanges during the discussion yielded 3 scores for each partner: a negativity score, comprised of negative reactions towards the partner, a problem-solving score, consisting of attempted solutions to the conflict, and a positivity score, including behaviors such as smiles and laughter. In the present context, the negativity scores are of greatest interest, as they can be seen as an indicator of aggression. To establish common levels of negativity unaffected by alcohol, couples discussed the second most controversial issue in their relationship prior to the introduction of the alcohol manipulation, so that alcohol-related effects could be established relative to this baseline. Figure 5.2 shows how the negativity scores for husbands and wives changed from baseline following the alcohol manipulation. Figure 5.2, increase in negativity scores from baseline in married couples as a function of husband's intoxication. There are 2 graphs. They are side-by-side bar graphs. In both, the y-axis is the negativity score from 35 to 70, and on the x-axis are the 3 categories of control, placebo, and alcohol. Okay, So the husband's negativity change. In the control, there is no change. In the placebo, there is no change. In the alcohol, his negativity becomes way higher, from about 38 to over 60. And with the wife's negativity change, in the control, there's no change really. In the placebo, the negativity decreases actually from 55 to about 48. And in the alcohol condition, though, the change is much greater, and the negativity of the wife increases from about 46 all the way up to 68. Basically the same proportional increase as the husband's during the alcohol condition. They become much more negative. For the husbands in the alcohol group, a significant increase in negativity towards their partner was observed after the administration of alcohol. By contrast, the placebo group did not show an increase in their negativity scores from baseline level, and no differences were observed in the control group between baseline and drinks administration. Thus, for husbands, actually drinking alcohol was a necessary condition for increased negative reactions towards their partners. However, wives showed higher negativity when their husband was in the alcohol condition, even though they had not drunk alcohol themselves. This finding is interpreted by Leonard and Roberts 1998 as an indication of the negative reciprocity in dyadic conflict. It demonstrates that alcohol intoxication by one partner in a conflict situation is sufficient to initiate an aggressive interaction and to trigger aggressive behavior in the other partner, who did not consume any alcohol at all. Quigley et al. 2018. The negativity scores of the wives in the placebo condition, who merely believed that their husband had received alcohol, were not affected, and no changes were observed in the wives' negativity scores in the control condition. Finally, it should be noted that couples both with and without a history of previous aggression were affected by the alcohol manipulation in the same way, disconfirming the author's initial hypothesis that alcohol would have a stronger effect on couples with an already established pattern of dyadic aggression. Far fewer studies are available that have examined the effects of drugs other than alcohol on aggressive behavior, Bushman 1993, and they mostly focus on particular domains or forms of aggression. In a longitudinal study on men's sexual aggression, Swartout and White 2010 found a significant relationship between the use of marijuana and other illicit drugs and the perpetration of sexual aggression, which remained significant after controlling for concurrent alcohol use. In a meta-analysis of 96 studies on the role of drugs other than alcohol, Moore et al. 2008 presented a fine-grained analysis of a range of drugs in relation to different forms of intimate partner aggression. They found that cocaine use in particular was significantly associated with psychological, physical, and sexual aggression against a partner. In the most recent review by Duke et al. 2018, which identified 8 meta-analyses looking at illicit drugs and a further 6 meta-analytic studies combining alcohol and other drugs, the overall effect size was D equals 0.49, which is similar in magnitude to the effect of alcohol. Nonetheless, there is a need for further studies, as the strength of the link between drug use and violent behavior may vary for different drugs. Kretschmar and Flannery, 2007. Moderators of the alcohol aggression link. Despite the consistent support for the alcohol aggression link, it is clear that intoxication is not linked to greater aggression in everybody and in all contexts. Therefore, it is important to identify moderators that can account for differences in the effects of alcohol on aggression. Such moderating variables can either lie in the situation, indicating that alcohol has a greater impact on aggression when certain situational variables are present at the same time, or they can lie in the person, suggesting that alcohol consumption is more or less likely to increase aggression depending on stable characteristics of the actor. We will first examine situational moderators of the impact of alcohol on aggression that have received particular attention in the literature: provocation, self-focused attention, and the presence of aggressive situational cues. With regard to the role of provocation, several studies have found that alcohol consumption is more closely linked to aggression when people are provoked. Bushman 1997 reported results from a meta-analysis which showed that provocations have a greater effect on intoxicated than on sober individuals. A meta-analysis focusing on women's aggression confirmed this finding, Crane et al. 2018. Self-focused attention is generally thought to be impaired under the influence of alcohol. When intoxicated, individuals are less able to concentrate on the self and to monitor their behavior than they would be in a sober state. However, inducing self-focus in intoxicated participants who are aware of their alcohol consumption, i.e., who are in the alcohol condition of the balanced placebo design, might lead these participants to try extra hard to compensate for alcohol-related cognitive impairment. Therefore, differences between sober and intoxicated participants in aggressive behavior should be less pronounced under high as compared with low self-awareness. This prediction was confirmed in Ito et al.'s 1996 meta-analysis when all 49 studies were considered simultaneously. Sober and intoxicated participants behaved more similarly the higher their self-focused attention. However, when only studies that used high doses of alcohol were examined, the difference was reversed. Highly intoxicated participants and sober participants behaved more similarly when their self-focused attention was low. This finding suggests that attempts to counteract the deleterious effects of alcohol through increased self-focused attention are successful only at relatively low levels of intoxication.